Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. Søren Kierkegaard wrote that in fear and trembling, and that quote, my friends, is the gateway to the storm-tossed, profoundly beautiful journey we're taking today. A journey into the heart of uncertainty, into the soul of anxiety, and ultimately into what it means to be human. We live in an age that worships at the altar of certainty. We crave it like a desert craves rain. From the algorithms that predict our behavior, to the 5-year plans for our careers, to the dating apps that promise to find our perfect match based on data. We are taught that there is a right answer for every question, an optimal path for every journey, and that if we just have enough information, enough logic, enough reason, we will find it. But what happens when that certainty is an illusion? What happens when life's most important decisions, to love someone, to choose a passionate path, to find a deeper meaning for our existence, lie beyond the grasp of pure logic? This is when we feel a particular kind of dread, a dizziness that the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called the dizziness of freedom. It's the vertigo we feel when we realize we are utterly, terrifyingly, and magnificently free. Welcome back. Today, we are not talking about easy answers. We are going to wrestle with one of the most challenging, yet liberating, ideas in all of philosophy, Kierkegaard's leap of faith. We are going to explore how to live a full life, not by eliminating uncertainty, but by embracing it with all our courage and passion. This isn't a dry lecture. This is a conversation about how we actually live. To truly understand the leap of faith, we first need to understand the map that Kierkegaard charted for the human journey. He believed that each of us has the potential to move through 3 distinct stages on life's way. These aren't automatic phases tied to age, but conscious choices about how we see and live our lives. The first stage, and perhaps the one many of us are most trapped in, is the aesthetic stage. The aesthetic individual lives for the moment. They are a connoisseur of pleasure, novelty, and immediate stimulation. Their life is a series of carefully curated experiences designed to avoid a single enemy: boredom. Think of the modern wanderer, swiping through relationships, jobs, and cities, never staying anywhere long enough to face commitment or responsibility. They are an expert critic of life, but never a true participant. They observe, they analyze, they enjoy, but they never truly choose. On the surface, the aesthetic life looks glamorous. It's a life of unbridled freedom, of infinite possibility. But Kierkegaard saw through this glittering facade. He saw that a life based only on the external, on fleeting sensations, ultimately leads to an abyss of despair. When every experience has been tasted, when every novelty becomes old, the aesthete is confronted with a paralyzing emptiness. They realize they are not a unified self, but merely a collection of disconnected moments, a ghost haunting their own life. This despair is the alarm clock. It's the painful realization that a life without commitment, without a deeper sense of meaning, is no life at all. This feeling forces the individual to search for something more solid, a foundation upon which to build a self. And this leads them to the threshold of the second stage, the ethical stage. The move from the aesthetic to the ethical is not a gentle slide. It's a decision, a conscious choice. It is the moment one says, I will be more than my appetites. In the ethical stage, the individual for the first time truly chooses oneself. Instead of being swept away by momentary desires, they begin to live according to universal rules, moral principles, and social responsibilities. They commit. They become a husband, a wife, a father, a mother, a responsible citizen. Their life has structure, purpose, and is guided by a clear distinction between right and wrong. This is the realm of duty and reason. The ethical stage is a massive leap forward from the aesthetic. It provides stability, meaning, and a sense of identity. The ethical person finds satisfaction in fulfilling their duties, in contributing to something larger than themselves. They believe in the power of reason to guide action and create a just society. They are the embodiment of order and responsibility, a solid pillar in a chaotic world. They have built a life of substance and integrity. Yet, even in this solid fortress of reason and morality, Kierkegaard found cracks. What happens when duties conflict? When loyalty to your family clashes with loyalty to your country? What happens when a person follows all the rules, does everything right, and still feels a profound suffering that reason cannot explain and morality cannot soothe? This is the limit of the ethical stage. The universal can only take you so far. The ethical stage, as noble as it is, ultimately fails to answer the ultimate questions of existence. It can tell us how to be a good person, but it cannot tell us why we exist, or how to confront the absurdity of death and suffering. When the individual recognizes this inadequacy of universal reason, they are once again faced with despair. But this is a deeper kind, the despair of realizing that even the most virtuous life is not enough. And it is from this abyss of despair that Kierkegaard points to a third way, one that requires a completely different kind of courage, the religious stage, and its entrance is the leap of faith. It is crucial to understand here that for Kierkegaard, religious does not necessarily mean subscribing to an organized religion or dogma. It is about a personal, subjective, and passionate relationship with the transcendent, with what he called God, or the Absolute. Here is the core of the message. The leap of faith is not an irrational act. It is not a blind leap in the dark. It is a supra-rational act. It takes place precisely at the point where reason has reached its limit and has admitted its own impotence. When you have analyzed every option, weighed every pro and con, sought out every piece of objective evidence, and finally realized that there is no certain answer, you face a choice. You can retreat back to the safety of the provable, of the finite ethical world, or you can take a leap. You can commit yourself to something based on an inward conviction, a subjective passion, in spite of the lack of objective proof. This is not a negation of reason, but a transcendence of it. It's an acknowledgement that life's most important truths are not discovered, but are made true through our act of commitment. To illustrate this potent idea, Kierkegaard used one of the most troubling stories in the Bible, the story of Abraham and Isaac. God commands Abraham to sacrifice his beloved, only son. From an ethical perspective, this is a monstrous command. Every universal moral rule condemns killing an innocent child. Reason cannot justify it. If Abraham were a purely ethical man, he would have refused, arguing that the universal moral law is absolute. But Abraham doesn't. He proceeds, trusting in his personal relationship with God, a relationship that suspends the universal ethical rules. He performs a teleological suspension of the ethical. He places his subjective faith in his God above the objective certainty of the moral law. His act is absurd to the outside world, but it is the pinnacle of faith. It is the leap. It's an act of faith in a truth that only he can access. Now, let's bring this ancient story into our modern lives. The leap of faith doesn't have to be so dramatic. It happens in our everyday decisions. It's when you decide to marry someone, not because an algorithm proved they were the one, but because you make a passionate commitment to love and build a life with them, despite the objective fact that the future is uncertain. The meaning is created in the loving, not found in the data. It's when an artist dedicates their life to their craft, not because there's any guarantee of fame or fortune, but because of an undeniable inner compulsion. It's a leap away from the safe, predictable path of a stable job into the uncertainty of creation. The meaning is not in the final product, but in the passionate act of commitment itself. That commitment reorders their world and gives it a center. So, how do we People of the 21st century, programmed to seek data and certainty, apply this radical philosophy. How do we learn to live without a safety net? The first step is to embrace subjective truth. Kierkegaard believed that while objective truth, like authentically, is important, it's subjective truth. The truth that we live, breathe, and die for, that gives existence its meaning. This means honoring your own passions, convictions, and commitments, even when you cannot logically prove them to others. Your life is not a problem to be solved. It is a reality to be experienced. Stop waiting for permission from the outside world to believe in something. The most important truth is the one you are willing to stake your life on. It is the truth that gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning. The second step is to act in spite of doubt. One of the great sicknesses of our time is analysis paralysis. We research, we plan, we worry, and we postpone, hoping that at some point we'll have enough information to make the perfect decision. Kierkegaard would say, this is a trap. Clarity does not come from thinking, it comes from doing. Take the leap, choose a path, and commit to it. You will learn more from failing at something you've committed to than from never starting at all. Uncertainty is not a wall, it's a doorway. It's only by stepping through it that we discover our own strength and potential. Don't let the fear of making the wrong decision prevent you from making any decision at all. It is in the act of committing that we truly create ourselves. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is to cultivate passionate commitment. For Kierkegaard, the opposite of faith was not doubt, but despair, the lack of passion and commitment. When you find something, a person, a cause, an ideal, that you are willing to take the leap for, you have found the antidote to the emptiness of the age. Passion is not a fleeting emotion. It is the engine of a meaningful life. It is the fierce dedication of the scientist in the lab, the tireless devotion of the social activist, the profound love between two people. It is the intensity of this commitment, in the face of uncertainty, that transforms an ordinary life into a work of art. It fills our existence with weight and purpose. It is the individual's answer to the silence of the universe, a defiant and beautiful yes. We began this journey asking how to live without certainty, and Kierkegaard's answer, paradoxically, is found in the question itself. Living without certainty is not a problem to be solved. It is the human condition to be lived. The anxiety we feel when we stand before our freedom is not a sign of weakness, but proof that we are alive. It is the price of admission for a meaningful existence. The modern world promises to de-risk our lives, to optimize our existence, and to deliver us certainty. But in doing so, it risks taking away the very things that make life worth living: passion, commitment, and our ability to create our own meaning. Kierkegaard invites us to take a different path, a path that requires the courage to face the abyss, to embrace paradox, and to take the leap. Because in the end, a life built on objective certainty may be safe, but it will always be finite. It is only when we dare to risk, dare to believe in something beyond proof, dare to love fully in the face of potential heartbreak, that we truly touch the infinite. It is only through the leap of faith that we truly learn how to fly. Thank you for listening.